Today we're going to be talking about exactly why making offers on commercial real estate properties has allowed me to sell more real estate than your traditional go after a listing model. Number one talks about the art of asking for their price. A lot of what happens when you're just going after a listing as a real estate broker in the commercial real estate world is that you're going to be like, hey, just curious, John, how much would you be looking for the property? They would say like, oh, I don't know, I think my property's worth 20 million bucks. And you're gonna say, okay, no problem. Can you give me all this information? You're asked financials, lease details. Then you're gonna do your evaluation as a broker. And you're gonna come back and say like, well, listen, based off of where cap rates are today, price per square foot is at today, where I believe some value add is still possible, for the next buyer to make some money. No investor's gonna buy something where they're not gonna be able to make some money, make some decent returns. Well, I think your property's worth 15 million, all hypothetically here. He's gonna say something along the lines, well, listen, I don't really need to sell it. I like to list it for $20 million. And if I get it, great. If I don't, who cares? This happens very commonly. And then a broker will then go, okay, sure, I'll list your property for $20 million, list the property, and then hope and pray that this person will come down in price over time. Now look, sometimes it happens, most of the time it doesn't. Some people, when they just don't need to sell, they want a ridiculous price, and they probably just won't sell the property, especially if they own a lot of real estate. They just typically are not sellers, they are just buyers, so I treat them like a buyer. So I don't typically go the route of just listing an overpriced property, something like you see on LoopNet all the time. It's just a bunch of overpriced properties. So what I do is the following, and I'll say something along the lines of, so John, just curious, do you happen to have a price in mind that you'd consider for the property? Same exact model. And then they'll say, well, I want 20 million bucks. Like, okay, so what I'm gonna do is let me get some information, all the same things, and I'm gonna come back to with evaluation and possibly some offers if I can. What I'll do is I'll come back and say, listen, based on my numbers, I've evaluated the property at around 15 million bucks. Here's 3 offers that I also got from my buyers. One might be mine from me. Like I have an offer for 14 million, 14.25, and 14.75 million. Here's just 3 offers. I think it's worth probably closer to 15, but here are 3 offers to show you that, like, look, I'm working really hard for you. I told them all 20 million. I gave them all the information you provided me, and this is the offers that I've got. What happens here is that now they go, oh, okay, wow, like you send them the offers, and they're going to be able to review those offers. They are all legitimate offers. I'm not here just to waste people's time. I mean, look, if I would probably be the one at, personally at 14 million, and then I might get a buyer at 14.25 or 14.5 or 14.75, 14.8, whatever, knowing that I can clearly sell the property for more if you were to accept one of the offers. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to gauge the level of motivation of this client. The initial piece is always ask first for a price from the seller. The reason why we do this is because sometimes what happens is that the seller is commonly got a number in their mind. Very commonly, they have a number in their head, and sometimes they're going to give it to you, and sometimes they're not. And the reason why I like to always ask is because sometimes sellers are not super driven by getting the craziest, highest price possible that the market can offer. They just want a solid offer, someone who can close, maybe as is or fairly quickly. So it's about asking them first, because if they give you a number first, what you're able to do is that you can then take that information and then gauge and structure your offer around that price. If you're in the seller's shoes, I would tell you, look, just make me an offer and we can talk from there. I always, if I'm the seller, I'm always gonna want the buyer to talk first. As a real estate agent, as an investor, I will always ask the seller and see if there's a price. Okay, look, I'm not afraid to make an offer, which is number 2, which is always 100% of the time, make an offer. No matter what price they tell you. It can be a crazy high number, it can be a crazy low number, whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. If they tell you a number or not, I 100% of the time make an offer. So when you're going through a deal and you have all the information in front of you and you're able to underwrite it and you go through all the details, I 100% of the time always make an offer on the property, because you just never know. And I want to gauge motivation. What is the purpose of an offer? I get this question all the time. Why are you making offers? It is to gauge motivation and to always get a counter. That's what I want. I want to gauge the motivation of the seller, see how motivated they are, see like how badly they actually want to sell it, and also try to get a counter at the best price possible. Because guess what? What happens is if you go out and they say, oh, I want $20 million, and then I didn't send any offers and I just say I think it's worth 15 and no offers, they just still think it's worth $20 million because they don't know if they can trust you. Even if you're a long-time friend, yeah, listen, I know Henry, I know we've known each other for a very long time, I still want to put it up for 20 million bucks. But if I give them 3 offers, they're like, oh wow, actually not only does he give me a valuation that these 3 buyers came in at, like he has legitimate qualified clientele with proof of funds. The point is it shows more legitimacy behind your offer. So I will always submit offers around that price to validate my valuation. Now, what'll happen is this, I'm making that offer. Now, let's say I come in at those prices. They might say something along the lines like, I would never accept this price. This is too low. This is ridiculous. This doesn't warrant a counter, blah, 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 blah. No matter what, you want to get a counter. A counter can be at full price. but I'll tell you how to deal with it. Because the purpose is here is like, okay, let's say they wanted 20 million, I said it's worth 15, and then I have 3 offers at 14, 14.5, and 14.75. What I'll do here is I say, okay, listen, here's all my offers. At what price can you make sense to sell this property for? If it's not 20 million, because clearly these buyers don't see the value at $20 million, they think it's clearly worth close to the 15 like I evaluated it at. Here's all the comparables, here's the market value, all the details you're gonna need to see how I came up with the 15 million. And then what's gonna happen is that they're gonna go, well, listen, I really don't need to sell it. I still want my 20 million, or I really don't need to sell it, or maybe I'll come down to 19. You can gauge by somebody who responds that way is they're not that motivated, and it's not like I should be spending all day long, all the time, energy, and effort, listing the property for sale, spending the money, doing the marketing, taking all my staff's time, energy, and effort, or my time, energy, and effort from years ago to list properties that are overpriced and are never gonna sell. Why would I do that? It just doesn't make any sense. But if someone comes back and says, listen, I hear you loud and clear, I appreciate the information, thank you for the offers. Look, I think 14.8 is maybe a little low. Maybe I can do, look, realistically, I really need to be around maybe 15.5, 16 million, and maybe I can make sense selling my property. Okay, cool, because now I'm starting to hear like they actually have some level of motivation to sell it. And then you can get into the next piece of it, which is when you do sell it, did you plan on doing a 1031 exchange, or what was your thought process? It's getting a counter, getting an idea of what is their situation, gauging their level of motivation so that you can then adjust accordingly, which we'll talk more about later in this video. When someone says, I want $20 million, I don't need to sell it, no nothing, you now have a choice to either go after the listing, which is something along the lines of like, John, I respect your $20 million number. I just wanted to give you some information. At least this way you can kind of see where all these buyers are coming from. Would you be totally against having me market the property for sale? I think we might be able to do a little bit better than the 15, try to get as close to that $20 million number that you're looking for. Shut up, let them respond, see if they would be open to having you list the property for sale. That's the sales script. It's an easy sales script, an easy pivot, but that can be a listing. In my opinion, I don't take those listings because I don't want all the phone calls of all those people calling me up and say like, hey, the property's overpriced, my buyer wants to come in at 14 million or 15 million. It's like, obviously, I know that. I told him the same price. It just doesn't make any sense, right? So I don't do that. I let all my other agents, they can take the listings, they put it in their names. It just doesn't matter to me, but that's our process. Number 3 is about understanding what's most important to them. Back to our example of the guy who wanted 20 million bucks. We're gonna say like, listen, John, so if I can get you the $20 million, would you be totally against taking payments over time? And you're gonna be quiet, obviously, because when you ask a very powerful statement, you always wanna be quiet right afterwards because you want to allow them to speak. You don't wanna continue talking and then ruin the whole purpose of the quote close, or it's a great statement to say. It's a great, powerful question to ask. So when they're gonna respond, they're gonna say like, listen, I'm not open to taking payments over time. I'm not open to seller financing. Or they might be open to it and they say, listen, yes, I am absolutely open to holding a note. I'm open to seller financing. I'm open to this, I'm open to that. They're going to tell you, but the purpose is you just need to ask if they're open to it. If we were able to get you an as-is offer closed in 30 days, is that more valuable than possibly getting you a much higher price? Because I have some guys who are very motivated to buy something right now, and I can probably get you an all cash, fairly, basically zero, very minimal contingency offers at around this price. Or would you prefer trying to get a higher price and possibly taking payments over time, or having a little bit more contingencies to the deal? Which would you prefer? Now, when you ask that type of question, again, very powerful, you want to be quiet right after you state it, now you're going to get them to think and speak, into what is actually most important to them. They're saying, no, like, I would prefer to have a faster sale. You'd be surprised a lot of people say that, and then you're going to have a lot of people go like, listen, I have no motivation to sell this. I don't need to sell this property. I just want my 16 million or my $20 million number. I don't care what contingencies they have in it, or they might even say, I want it as is, 20 million. But what you're starting to get is information from the seller that basically tells this story of how motivated they are. If they're continuously telling you, hey, I want 20 million as is, I don't need to sell it, all this type of stuff, how much time should you really be spending on a property that's drastically overpriced, that's 20, 30% overpriced? Why would you spend all this time, energy, and effort on that property when what you should be doing is trying to see if you can spend more time with people who are more motivated, where you're actually gonna be able to get a sale, right? So it's about structuring the questions in the right way so you can actually see how motivated, what their current situation is, what their response is like, so you can actually gauge how to move forward with that client. Number 4, it's all about commission. If the deal is less than 10 million bucks or $10 million or less, I'll typically always put a 6% commission on the deal when I submit an offer. Even if it's a quote lower offer, fairly minimal contingency or zero contingency offer, and it's a quick cash closing or something like that, I will still put 6% commission on anything typically less than 10 million. If it's between 10 and 25 million, I'll typically do between 4 and 5%. And then if it's above $25 million, I'll typically do 2 or 3% on those deals. Now, I want to just do a big caveat for you. Of course, you should be getting exclusive signed. Of course, you should be protecting yourself. And in these instances where you can't, I will always just put my information and that commission amount in the letter of intent. Okay, even when I write up the letter of intent for me. Okay, yes, I'll pay myself a commission on deals where I'll buy the deal. What I want to also state for you, you made an offer at 14 million, they wanted 20 originally, you offered 14, I'd put something like maybe 4 or 5% in the deal, and let's just say they come back and they say, listen, I actually would be open at something like maybe 14.5 or something like that, but I need to close quickly. Okay, now what you're doing is like, let's just say you got them to agree at 14 or 14.5, and you really know the property's worth 15 million bucks, or maybe 15.5 or something like that. What you can do is you can negotiate and say, hey, I do have an offer for you of a net to you of 14 million. The buyer's willing to pay 15.5 and pay my 6% commission. You can state things like that. That is totally kosher. You're totally allowed to do that. And that only occurs, right? You're only gonna be able to earn substantial commissions percentage-wise, the 5 or 6% commission range when there's enough spread, which means the seller is willing to agree at a price where you have enough room between the seller's price and what the buyer will actually pay for it. This allows you to do that. Obviously, when you're listing the property for sale, it's very different because there's, you're kind of stuck at what you agreed to. But when you play the game like I do, which allows me to negotiate every term, I'm able to structure deals as long as it's good for my buyers. I will always 100% make sure that the price is agreeable to my seller and the price is agreeable to my buyer. Right? It has to be agreeable to both parties, of course. That's the only way that you're going to make any sizable amount of money is when you can get the seller to agree at a price which is possibly a smidge below market, okay? And then you're gonna find a buyer who's willing to pay at market or substantially above whatever price you got it locked up for. I mean, it's okay to take a 6% commission. The seller's willing to agree at X, the buyer's willing to agree at X, and everybody's happy. It's a win-win-win situation. We've done this several times, and this is why we submit offers right away instead of just trying to list the property for sale. Point number 5, based on their response, I will pivot accordingly. So we've talked about multiple lenses in commercial real estate in past videos, and let me just break it down for you. So the same situation. They wanted 20 million. We offered them 14, 14.5, and 14.8 or 14.75, whatever I said before. And what's going to happen is that let's just say they come back and say, I want 15.5 or 16. Well, I'm going to pivot and say, okay, great. Let me see what I can do best for you, right? Like I'm going to see if I can try to get you the best offer possible. Let me go back to my buyers. I'll talk to a few other people and see what the best price I can possibly get for you, and I'll try to get as close as possible to your 15.5 or 16 million, okay? Sure, sounds good. What I'm actually doing is I'm going to re-underwrite the deal. See how good the property is. Like, see, really understand the intrinsic value. What is this property truly, really, I'll re-underwrite the property. Like, hey, I said it was worth 15. Let's say I really did some good underwriting. They want 15.5. I'm going to see if that's actually doable. And sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's not something that a buyer would be willing to pay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot and say like, hey, Mr. Seller or John, say like, John, just curious, would you be totally against having me market the property for sale, right? Just to see if we can get you higher than the 55 or 16 that you're looking for. Would you be totally against that? And then what'll happen is I'll pivot accordingly based on how good the number is. So if it's, let's just say they say like, well, I'm willing to take the 14.5. Fantastic, no problem. We talked to my buyers. Let me try to get a deal locked up for you. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to go to my buyers, make sure that I can get this deal locked up at 14.5 and try to get a 4, 5, or 6% commission like we had just mentioned and try to negotiate with them. And sometimes they go like, listen, I need a net 14.5. I'll go back to them and see if like, hey, would you pay 15 or 15.5? See how much commission that we can try to work out a deal. And sometimes I might only make 2 or 3%, and that's just what it is. What's important to note though is that we think through the lenses accordingly, which is number one, we want to purchase it ourselves. That's the way I look at this. I want to buy it myself, buy it as an investment property. So if I see it's worth 15, maybe if I only think it's worth 15, I might offer 11 or 12 million because I need to make sure that I make returns for my investors. What will happen is like, let's just say they come back and say, well, they want 15.5 or 16, or maybe they want 15 million, they want to net 15 million. I'm then going to pivot to the next lens, which is brokering it off market. Maybe I have a buyer who's willing to pay the 15 million net, or maybe pay a little bit more, 14.5, include my commission. You get my point. I'll broker it off market. And lastly, I'll look at the lens of maybe I can list this property for sale, and I'll go in that way accordingly. I'll buy it ideally, and if not, I'll broker it off market, and if not, I'll list the property. That's the lenses that I walk through. I don't go the other direction, which most brokers do, which is how do I list this property? How do I list this property? property, how to list this property, and that's the only lens they see this opportunity at, versus let me make some offers or let me try to broker this deal off market, which will allow them to earn higher commissions or higher money in general, more money in general on this deal. That's why I stress making offers and learning how to pivot accordingly. Okay, number 6, last but not least, using offers as a form of follow-up. What we do is that with every seller, like we said, we make an offer 100% of the time, every time. It's just our philosophy with our team. In that philosophy, we'll make an offer, and what'll happen is, let's just say they're stuck at 20 million bucks, okay? Or they come down to 18 million. Still way too high for me to broker it off market, and they do not want to list the property for sale. What we will do is that within the first 30 to 60 days, we will try to get them somewhere between 3 and 5 offers. Within the first year, we try to get them somewhere between 5 and 10 offers on the property, because it shows them this is a form of follow-up. We'll try to make sure that we throw an offer at them every couple weeks, every couple months. We're going to throw another offer. Hey, John, we're still thinking about you. We got actually another offer. They wanted to pay 15.5, 15.25, 16.5, whatever it comes back at, 14.2, whatever the numbers. It doesn't really matter, but we want to get very legitimate offers submitted, and we use this as a form of follow-up. Instead of just calling somebody up and say, hey, would you consider selling it? Would you consider selling it? Have you renegotiated your price? Would you take less? Blah, 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 blah. We use offers as a form of follow-up. Hey, John, I just wanted to let you know, I was speaking with a few clients about your property. I told you I'm always going to do what I can to try to get you the best price possible. I was just speaking to somebody. I got an offer for you, another offer for you, right? I know we've sent you quite a few. We got an offer for you now at 15.5 million. Okay, here's the term sheet, here's the proof of funds, here's the whatever. Can you take a look at it right now? Yeah, here, let me take a look at it. Sure, John, I know you said last time that you were looking for somewhere like above the, around the 18 million range. Was that, were you at all open to taking something near the 15.5, maybe 16 million range? Because I think we can get this property sold if you're willing to be a little bit more flexible. And you continue, going back at them with all these offers, and eventually you're seeing that, like, hey, wow, this guy knows what he's doing. This guy's got a lot of buyers. So if and when they want to list it, or if and when they want to sell it, who do you think is going to get that very first phone call? You probably are. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, make sure you drop it in the comment section down below. I personally respond to just about every single comment. Make sure you give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, and subscribe to the channel if you've yet to do so. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everybody.